Hector had a great request. Hector mans our morning market reports, and I got to meet Hector for the first time a couple weeks ago, and he is an energetic dude. So we are happy to have him doing our market reports. But he said, "Hey Tyler, why don't you do something tonight on covered calls and talk about how you can amp up the returns on those using options?" So I said, "All right, Hector. Hey, your wish is my command. Let me go ahead and do that." Okay. So the way I want to set the stage with the covered call is talk about it from a leverage perspective, and then show you how you can do something similar without having to buy the stock. Okay. So how many here have not heard the analogy that buying a stock and selling a call is kind of like renting out a house? Anybody not heard that analogy before? That's one of the first things I think we teach in most all of our classes. Okay, Latricia? All right, good. This is why I asked, because I wanted to know if it was necessary to do a quick brush up. All right, so Latricia, I'm going to talk to you for a second. Well, let's just pretend it's you and I, all right? So the way that people think about making money in real estate is you buy a house, it goes up in value, you sell the house. You make money. Buy low, sell high. An alternate way you make money is you buy the house and you rent it out to generate rental income every month. Hopefully you bring in more money every month than you pay out in mortgage expenses and so forth, right? So that's one of the ways that people think about cash flowing a house. So you guys see this pretty little house I drew here? Okay, we're going to draw Cam. Cam's here in the window. Here's producer Cam. He's just kicking it here. Listening to Justin Timberlake, right? He's got music blaring in the background. He's just hanging, okay? Prepping his rhymes. There's Cam. Okay, so Cam needs a place to stay, and I got some money, so I say, all right, Cam, I'm going to buy a house for $100,000. Okay, so $100,000 out of my pocket, and I'll rent it out to you. And let's say that after all the expenses, based on what I'm charging him in rent, let's run some numbers. Cam, you're going to pay me $1,000 a month in rent, okay? And let's say all my expenses are, I don't know, $800. All right, $800 in expenses. So guys, what's my cash flow? What's my cash flow here? I'm getting $200 a month, right? Okay, so I'm getting $200 a month. And so what is that a year? 1,200? Nope. What's 200 times 12? 2,400? 2,400 a year, right? Now, if I'm trying to figure out, okay, what's my return on investment? What's my return on investment? Well, I bought this house with cash, hard, cold cash. I made $2,400 a year on 100,000. What kind of a return on investment is that? So ROI number one here. ROI is 2.4%. Everybody agree with that? So you make 2,400. You invested 100,000. Right? So 2.4%. Okay, how do I improve the return? How do I improve the return? Well, I pay less for the house, right? Or I finance it, or I raise the rent. There's a good answers here. Let's say that this is fixed. Let's fix these two. These two are fixed, okay? You can't reduce expenses, you can't increase rent. These are fixed. So the only variable I can impact in this little example is the cost of the house, okay? So maybe I finance it and I don't put up the whole 100,000, right? Maybe I just put up 20,000 bucks. Let's assume I put up 20,000. My expenses are still 800. The rent's still 1,000. I'm bringing in 2,400 bucks a year, right? Would that give me a better return? So if I can reduce the cost of what I'm purchasing to get the rental income, that increases my return on investment. Everybody with me? So if I put up 20,000 and I finance the other 80,000 and my expenses are still 800, then I'm making 2,400 on 20,000, right? What is that? Somebody run the numbers for me. 12%? That looks right. Okay, 12%. Okay, so one of the ways that we access leverage in the real estate market is through financing, right? We use other people's money, we borrow, we reduce the cost of the property, and then our cash flow is a higher percentage return, right? And then Mario, you're right. And then I have, assuming I had $100,000 to begin with, now I've got 80K I can do something else with if I really wanted to amp up, right? Okay, so in the stock market, the classic covered call is you buy 100 shares of stock, okay, and you rent it out, right? And then you sell a call option. Sell one call option. This is like the house, right? This is the house. And this is the rent, the call option. This is the rent. Okay, so this is a covered call strategy. Okay, so let me show you a quick example of that. And then we're going to transition to what is the main thing today. So what's a stock you guys think looks decent right now for a covered call that I can use as an example? Okay, Robbie, early bird gets the worm. Let's go with X. This is United States Steel. Okay, so this is a $24 stock, $24.81. $24.81. So how much would it cost me to buy 100 shares? Well, if I go to my trade tab and I click on the ask price and I buy 100 shares, it'd be $24.87 times, or what was the closing price? $24.81 times 100. So $2,481. Okay. So let's assume I'm not using margin, I'm not borrowing, I'm not levering up, I'm just buying the stock outright. I'm just buying the house outright. Okay, so if I'm going to buy X, I'm going to pay $2,481. You with me? Now, I'm going to rent it out. So you learn about this in our options classes, but typically we sell around a 1-month option. Let's say I'm going to sell October. Okay, I'm going to sell an October option. I'm going to rent this out to Cam for the next 57 days. Okay, I'm going to give him the right to buy the stock. That's what I'm doing. I'm obligating myself to sell the stock to Cam. Let's say that I sell the 25 strike call. I can get it, let's say $1.70. $1.70. So I'm going to sell that call option and bring in about $1.70. Okay? So you sell the call, you bring in $170 for the next 57 days. Okay, what is that as a return on investment? Well, you could potentially make, just on the premium from the call, $170. You had to put up $2,481, correct? So if I grab my calculator, 170 divided by 2,481 is 6 or round up, 9%. Okay, 6.9%. Is that pretty good? Now, it's not guaranteed, okay? But if all goes well, I'm looking at about a 7% return in 57 days. Okay. Now, one of the reasons why I suspect you mentioned X is it's a cheap stock. Okay. $2,500 is not that expensive. Okay. But you could see how as the price of the stock rises, it gets, more challenging to buy 100 shares. As the house gets more expensive, it's difficult to buy a $500,000 house to rent out. It's easier to buy a $50,000 house to rent out. Same thing with stock prices. Okay, same thing with stock prices. So, that being the case, is there a way that we can reduce the cost of the stock? Is there a way to reduce the cost of the stock? So basically, to improve ROI, my return on investment. I reduce the cost of the stock. Okay. Well, what I want to do, and I'm gonna switch back to the notes here, is how do I reduce the cost of the stock? How do I reduce the cost of a stock? Well, number one, you could buy on margin, which usually by default in a margin account, you only have to put up 50% of the cost of the stock, right? So like if I do this in Thinkorswim, if I finish out this trade, if I were to right click and go to buy covered stock, which is a covered call trade, buy covered stock, it says, oh, you want to buy 100 shares of the stock and then sell the October 25 covered call. I say, yep, that's what I want to do. What's the cost? Well, here it's only 580 bucks. It's actually less than 50%. Okay? But basically they don't make you put up 100% of the stock price. So really your potential return on investment is better than 6.9% right off the bat if you're using margin.